You need to understand your product, you need to understand the data, and you need to understand those relationships and how to get it. So those are the three things right there that are going to make you most successful.
Today I talked to Christi Unger. Christi is a commercial product manager with over 13 years experience in industry.
I think one of the struggles with especially early product managers is that people need to trust you.
We talk about taking over a product right before it goes to launch.
They were expecting it to just kind of go smoothly. And when you're working with things that come from living organisms or might have a mind of their own in life sciences, you have to expect the unexpected.
All right, let's get going. Christi, thanks for hopping on with us today. It's great to see you again.
Thanks so much for having me.
So let's start off with just some background on you. Tell us about how you got into product management.
My bachelor's is actually in biology. And so I went to school for science and I kind of fell into it accidentally. I got a job in organ transplant. I was working for a device company and working for a startup. You have to wear a lot of hats. And that's kind of where I started the product management as by working with this company and wearing all these different hats, doing all these different things. And I started doing that about 10 years ago. And I've done everything from diagnostics to endoscopy, respiratory, and I'm back in diagnostics now.
So you talked about wearing a lot of hats. Give me a couple of examples of some of the hats you wore in previous life.
I have done everything from, product development, upstream marketing. So I developed the product, I talked to KOLs, I did everything, worked with engineers, I actually did the experiments with the products. I did all the hands-on stuff, created the IFUs and the training material. And I've done the downstream stuff and creating the IFUs, the training material for internal, for external, advertisements, writing content, research. I've published posters and all sorts of things. So kind of anything that you can think of that goes into a product, I have had I've touched it somewhere.
So focusing on launching products, let's start there. Talk a little bit about how specifically you got into launching maybe your first product and what that looked like.
So my first product launch, I came into it. The product was almost ready for market. So I was hired for this company and the product was almost ready. They had kind of started teeing everything up, ready to go. And it was my job to kind of bring it over the finish line. And, I think one of the biggest things with launching a product is the timing and the expectations around that for both internal stakeholders and of course our customers. So they had kind of given us the green light, said, you know what, let's go. This product is ready. Let's start advertising. So we said, coming soon. And I started with this, it was looking okay. Then we had a couple of hiccups, a couple of technical issues, kind of had to bring it back to, bring it back down a couple of phases, work through some things. So I kind of came in at, it was almost ready and then it wasn't. And I kind of had to deal and kind of figure out how to move forward from there.
So when you were brought in, I think the expectation was set that we're very close to launch.
Yeah.
Understanding that we want to be sensitive and keep things confidential. Can you talk a little bit about maybe what was left in the timeline and maybe where things got held up?
Sure. This particular type of product, it does rely on, a lot of different quality items and things like that. And the quality of the product was good overall, but when you have different lots, there was just some technical things that they had to work out, and it had looked okay. They were expecting it to just kind of go smoothly. And when you're working with things that, come from living organisms or might have a mind of their own or whatever it might be in life sciences, it's not easy. It's not, cut and dry. It's not, you have to expect the unexpected because some of these things do literally have a mind of their own. So you don't have the control over that. And they were very optimistic, which was great. Again, it was a good product. But it was those last minute technical hiccups that I don't think they were necessarily expecting. And, it was kind of a big obstacle to kind of have to work through.
When you were at this point, was a launch date set and you were coming into an expected launch, that was concrete, or was that something that you sort of helped build the plan around?
It was more of it wasn't set in stone, but it was definitely a pretty solid. We're going to have it by Q3, September even,
Mhm.
and working through, maybe 6 months out, and working through the product launch as we did. I quickly realized that that was not a feasible timeline. So I
Yeah.
think, in launching other products, and kind of working through this industry, I like to add an extra 6 months just off the bat, just kind of, the timelines that, and it could be, the life science product or a medical device or something, any of these things. I like to add an extra 6 months. And I know that's it sounds pessimistic, but in reality, a lot of these timelines are very aggressive. And that's definitely a great thing to have. Like, you want to have an aggressive timeline, but you also want to have a realistic timeline. And in my experience, some of these timelines were just a little too aggressive. So for me, not to say, let's add 6 months across the board, with our stakeholders, but just for me personally to be aware of things happen, and to kind of keep that in the back of my mind, and to manage expectations that this 6 months might not be 6 months. It might be a year. It might be 8 months, but to have kind of like a backup plan ready
Yeah.
to mitigate any sort of situation where it isn't ready when they want to launch. So I learned that lesson very quickly, as my first product launch kind of took a little bit extra time.
Our first product launch is always the place where we we learn a lot of the lessons.
Yes.
When you mentioned the timelines were aggressive, how were they like who set them, and why do you think they were so aggressive?
I think the previous product manager had set that up. I think with that particular product, when they were doing the development and looking at the data, it looked good. So, I can understand why they did that the way they did. Plus the fact that they were getting a lot of pressure from other stakeholders, so finance or sales, or kind of trying to. The business aspect is really pushing on them, kind of putting some pressure on them to get this going. Was going to be, it would fulfill a need of our customers. It was going to be something that people really wanted, and they really wanted to deliver. So the aggression with the timeline, I think, kind of came from a multitude of things, between the business pressure and, the product looking pretty good. Um, it was like, all right, we'll take the risk here and kind of move forward with this.
So would you say, a lot of times we see a good, better, best, plan.
Yeah.
Do you think they were moving on sort of the best case
Yeah.
scenario, and then maybe ran into a situation where it's really the better
Or good. Yeah.
good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, I think that was, best case scenario. And it's always good to be optimistic with your teams, and especially stakeholders. You want to get the buy-in from everybody and kind of keep going, and really kind of be aggressive with the product development and getting it to launch. But I think when you put too much into that risk, or of risk into that, like, best case scenario, and you're not careful, then you really can set yourself up for failure. Um,
Yeah.
I think that might have been part of kind of the lessons learned there.
Yes. Understood. Understood. So you ran into some challenges and you hit some delays, and your job is to manage the stakeholders.
Yes.
So what are some of the things that you saw happen as that was unfolding? How are some people, or some of the stakeholders reacting to the delays, and what did you do to manage that?
Internally and externally were two very different things. So internally, we had, again, a lot of pressure from, our stakeholders that were, we want it now, we want this, we want this. Why isn't it working? Yes, this is fine. Let's keep going. Very optimistic again, which is not always a bad thing, but a little bit too optimistic that things were going to go as planned. Externally was really where I had to do most of the legwork, or most of the work around the, mitigating expectations, or the whole delay and everything like that, because we said it was coming soon. We said, and especially talking to specific customers, oh, we're going to have it by this date. Yes, you can have it by this date. They had projects set up that they were going to need this product for, and that was the biggest challenge, because we had our R&D and our scientists working internally. That was kind of on them in quality, and all these other things. They were running that part of the show. There was nothing more I could do to make this work because they had it handled. Externally was the biggest thing. And that's where there was a lot of lessons learned for me. And kind of, again, back to wearing a lot of different hats, you kind of just have to think outside the box a little bit and see where you can get creative and where you can, sometimes you got to wing it. But with our customers and people who were already, aware of this project and the product coming down the line, they were like, okay, where is it? TikTok. Like you said, it was going to be ready. So part of that was to give specific customers that were already involved, beta products. They can test them here. We love your feedback. It was more a few reasons. One, to show them, yeah, the product it's really close. We're ready to rock and roll. Just try this. Here you go. You're special. We see you. We appreciate you in our relationship. That worked out pretty well. And we got initial feedback about the product, which was very positive. So that was a plus. And then managing the advertisements and the marketing materials that we had put out, some of the content, and we had to kind of figure out, all right, well, how else are we going to keep their attention, and how else are we going to, kind of save face and say, you can trust us as a company. We're a reputable brand. We are good quality. It's something that they had been known for, and we wanted to keep those customers thinking that. So it was kind of just, how are we going to keep their attention? How are we going to keep their trust? How are we going to still make sure that they understand that, we are good for our word. So it was a lot of, new content creation and kind of wording things. And again, reaching out to key customers and kind of making sure the relationships were still really good and just, kind of keeping everybody happy.
So that's really great. Thank you for sharing that. And I think you make a really good point where the brand had a reputation. They were known for quality. Mm-hmm. And I think that lends itself to being able to weather a hiccup in a product launch. And it goes a long way. Was there an impact to trust in the company with customers as the product launch extended?
I think there was definitely some, like a little bit, it was a little wobbly. It got a little like, you know what I mean? Like they were like, wait a second. But we had, a lot of other really great products that a lot of our customers were already using, that they said, okay, we have this good foundation, and we were lucky that we had a good foundation. I think it might've been a little bit different had it been a new company or a new product that people hadn't heard of before, because that you're going to make it or break it. But we already had a legacy of, the trust and the quality and, having very accurate and, working products that people are going to, the customers need, they need to know that this is going to work, because their research and their work depends on it. It's not just something that they're going to use and be like, okay, go, that's cool. But it has to be very, very specific, very accurate, if their stuff's going to work, and they're going to be trusted. So it's not just us. So yeah, of course, the company needs to be trusted. But in life sciences, especially if it's something like they're going to continue on with research, they need to be trusted from their peers and the industry as well. So it's kind of high stakes, but again, we had the foundation to kind of keep us afloat a little bit.
Yeah, that's great. What do you think went really well? What were you really proud of about that launch? I mean, you came in, you said towards maybe the later end of it. What were you really excited about? What were you proud about?
We were putting a product out there that was going to meet a need that wasn't being met. It wasn't a Me Too thing. It wasn't something that, they could be like, oh, we already have one of those, So there was something that our customers were looking for. There was a need that was going to kind of open up a little bit more opportunity in their research. So this is kind of trying to help them open some more doors. And so, with the launch itself, there was a delay. There were some timing issues, but the product itself, it hit the need for our customers, what they were looking for. It was going to progress their research. So, a lot of these, every product that I've worked on, honestly, in medical device, that's, I think, the best part of this industry in life sciences and medical devices, right? You're working directly to help with customers that are working directly to help other people or progress science or to do something really cool. So I was really proud to be able to work with some really great products to help along some research to maybe help find some new things. So either the launch, it went well eventually. I think that's really cool that we got to kind of have a hand in, or part, very small part in the bigger picture of progression, you know?
Yeah, I think that's great. And I think that's part of why, in running the agency for 18 years now, I think we've explored some different industries to work in, certainly. And we always come back to life sciences and redouble down on it because it's challenging. This isn't certainly not an easy job by any stretch. But ultimately, when you can kind of go to sleep at night knowing that today you helped, X company move that much closer to a market adoption or becoming the solution that saves people's lives
Yeah.
or has some kind of impact. Like I don't want it to sound trite. Like
Yeah,
it really makes a difference, as opposed
absolutely.
to like spangly shoes or something like that. We just really, really enjoy being part of that.
Exactly. And as a product manager, product management, I can't say is the same exact thing across all products, but it's very similar. You do the same type of work. You got to use the same kind of, problem solving skills. So the skill set is kind of set across a lot of industries. But so I could be a product manager for some spangly shoes because that would be great if I had, I wear fun shoes. I'd love that. But it's something to, there's something to be said about working in this industry, making a difference. It's incredibly fulfilling. But we get to do really cool stuff. Like I'm super passionate about science. I'm super passionate about helping people, but like we get to do some like mad scientist kind of thing. And like, that's so cool. Like I wouldn't give this up.
It is very exciting, even to be sort of tangential to it, to be even a very, very small part of that. So,
Yeah,
yeah, that's awesome. So talking to somebody who's maybe earlier in their career, do you have any advice, any recommendations, things to avoid, or things to look out for, opportunities to jump on, anything at all? Put
sure.
on your mentor hat for a moment, and what does that look like?
I have a couple of things. So, number one, relationships are incredibly important, and that could be within your own team, in your industry, in your company, outside. It doesn't matter. You want to know people and you want to get to know them. So relationships are super important. So talk to your coworkers, get to know them. You never know. I don't want to say it's like a favor. So hey, hey Joe, like remember that thing like you were talking about? Like it's not necessarily that, but people are gonna want to help you if they really know you. So I think one of the struggles with especially early product managers is that people need to trust you if they're going to do stuff for you, because you don't have that ability to say you do this or you're fired. You don't have the direct impact that, or you know what I mean, like you can't just tell people what to do. That's not how this works. You have to get people to do things and cooperate and collaborate without that behind you. So relationships are super important, and then especially in this industry, data and evidence and having processes. Like you really don't have anything else to go by. So if you're going to get people to do stuff and work together and work towards a goal, you need to have the data and the evidence. And so you need to understand your product, you need to understand the data, and you need to understand those relationships and how to get it. So those are the three things right there that are going to make you most successful, is saying, okay, well, here's my opinion. People are going to need to know, like, okay, why do I care? So they're going to need to like know you, that they can trust you. And they say, okay, well, here's why. Here's all the data behind this, and this. Like you can prove that to them. It's all about the persuasion, and then having the strategy and the process to kind of get things to work. So you need the framework, the data behind it, and you really need those relationships. Those three things will really set you up for success.
Yeah, I love that. Tell me a little bit. You talk about a framework. Talk more about that.
If you're doing product development, a lot of companies already have their phase reviews. They already have SOPs for these types of things. Being able to rely on that or if you're doing more downstream, having a plan, a roadmap, obviously, and being able to communicate that. So really what you're doing is it's expectations. You're communicating back to the expectations part. You're communicating the expectations so people understand what to expect, what's next, what's down the road, what's going on with timing, what their role is, what your role is, who's doing what, and having that framework so everybody kind of knows their part or where they're, how to play the game, I guess. Does that make sense? That's that's the biggest thing is
Roles and
roles and
responsibilities.
responsibilities, the
Yeah.
SOPs, the processes, roadmaps, strategy. We all need to know where we're going, and you're the one driving.
Sorry to jump in, but have you ever been in a situation where you walked in and they didn't have that in place?
Oh yeah. Yes, yes. In different, I've been worked for a number of different companies, and everybody has their own way of doing things. And I think one of the benefits of working at different companies, you kind of take. I like to learn. I'm always learning. I'm a lifelong learner, and taking the things that worked at another company, bringing it with me, seeing if it might work there if they don't already have that in place. And then there's a lot of really great communities online now, between Reddit or Facebook, or there's all sorts of stuff that you can kind of get other people's feedback. Hey, this isn't working here. We don't already have this. What do you do? And kind of bringing stuff in. So I've done that on a number of occasions to kind of get things, getting something in the works or getting a process moving or a product out or whatever it might be.
It's funny that you said Reddit and Facebook because so a couple things. Um, I often in my space will mention those and other platforms, and clients will push back and say, "Well, we don't want to be involved in any of that. That's not where our work happens." And they have a number of really pushback points. How do you? Um, I mean, is it sort of full transparency that you jump into those communities and have questions and are looking for things because nobody knows everything, right?
Yeah.
We're all continuously learning.
Yeah.
Things are changing at super fast. So, I mean, you just told me that you're in there, but do
Oh
you
yeah.
see any of that pushback or any of that resistance, or are people like, yeah, whatever it takes to figure it out?
I do it personally. I don't, I'm not like, okay, all right, we're going to take a time out. I'm going to go on Facebook and ask my buddies here. But I
Right.
absolutely use those tools, and there's some really great communities, and there's even, even subcategories or subsets. I'm in women in product and all these really other really supportive, you know, hive mind kind of things, and, as far as pushback, I don't. I haven't really seen a lot of pushback, especially if it's a good idea. Like they're not going to care where that came from. They just want to know if it's going to work. So if I don't have to reinvent the wheel, like yes, please. I'm looking for
Yeah.
efficiency and effectiveness here. And if people are very willing to share, they're very willing to help and mentor each other in those types of communities. And I've had a lot of success from others helping me, and I'm always willing to help. So it's kind of it's really great to have those types of opportunities and outlets.
Do you have a favorite community that you'd be willing to share with us?
I think it's probably Women in Product on Facebook. They have been fantastic. There's a few other ones that I might be forgetting right now, but I mean, I even have stuff in the Boston area. People do meetups, and they're always willing to help each other out. And this worked for me, or why don't you try this? Or here's some resources. Have you read this book? I just read this book, and I want to talk about it. And so there's a lot of asks and a lot of gives. And a lot of the times I kind of just am a fly on the wall. I like to just kind of soak things in, and I kind of take what resonates. And sometimes I ask questions, and sometimes I give stuff out. It's really great to have the support, and that's really what that's about. Is kind of helping everybody be successful.
That's great. Appreciate you sharing that with us. Is there anything else that you would want to share with us?
It's funny. I didn't think that I'd be a product manager. Technically I'm in marketing and in business. I went to school for biology. I'm getting my master's now in neuroscience to kind of figure out how the brain works in this type of, how to sell things, marketing, things like that. But there's something to be said about getting into it. So finding these communities, if anybody's interested in furthering their career in product management, getting into product management, there's tons of resources out there. I'm happy to be a resource because it's not easy to get into. It's not easy to start.
Why do you feel it's so hard? What was hard about it?
First of all, it's kind of like a niche thing. You have to be, especially in life sciences, you have to be technical, and you have to be able to talk to people, and you have to be able to make decisions and think on your feet. And there's a lot of these really, like a lot of soft skills that I don't think you realize that they kind of belong to something like product management. I didn't know that this was even a thing. And I got into it, I'll answer that first, kind of by accident. I think I mentioned that. And, I worked for a really cool startup company where we were doing some really cool things. And because it was a smaller company and you had to wear a lot of hats, I learned a lot of skills. I learned that I just had to do stuff. I learned pieces of marketing. I learned this, I learned that on the fly because nobody else was there to do it. That was pretty much it. It was like, okay. And my boss knew that I would deliver. So he'd be like, hey, we need this. And it was something totally out of the blue or the ordinary for me. And I'd figure it out. And unfortunately, with that particular company, I loved it so much. We had a big layoff. I couldn't work there anymore. So I said, okay, what am I going to do? That was a really niche product I was, doing and working with. And I listed all these skills, and I kind of found that was product management. And I had the company that I'd come into to launch this product. They took a chance on me, and he said, okay, well, we can teach you the product. We can't teach you all those other things, the relationship management, how to communicate, the talk, that kind of thing. That is harder to teach than the actual technical part. So they said, all right, we'll teach you the other stuff, but we like you for this. So I was very lucky. They gave me the opportunity. I've been doing it ever since. But it's hard because you don't go to school for product management. It's not like, they might have it now. When I was going to school, not that long ago, it was not something you can get a degree in. So to have companies take a chance on you, or you have to kind of evolve into that role. And it's not like a set thing. It's like, okay, you're an associate this, and then you move to this, and then you move to this. It's kind of like a coming from some sort of angle, and then maybe there's not a direct path to product management, or at least a very easy one. And so it's all these jobs that you might be looking at, you need 3 to 5 years of experience. You need to have product launch experience, or product development experience, or whatever it might be. And how are you going to do that if you how are you going to break into it with no experience? It's just one of those things. And I'm sure there's other types of jobs or industries that's very similar to, but it's not something you just walk into. So learning those skills to make yourself kind of stand out, the soft skills, is and you can I know that they said you can't teach that. You can teach the technical part, but I think you can learn if it's interesting to you. I think you probably already have it in you if that's something you want to do.
Yeah, that is 100% true. And I think that we work in highly technical fields, and the people with the soft skills, the people who are able to bring different perspectives together and manage, it's hard work. They're strong personalities. There are high demands, and to be able to navigate that, but also bring those people together and get everybody rowing in the same direction and maintain the energy.
Yeah.
It does take something special, and it takes those, we call them soft skills, but I almost feel like there's an implication there that maybe they're less important than the technical skills. And I think that being able to build a team and get everybody going in the same direction, I think it's just as important.
Oh, absolutely. To make things happen. Yeah, absolutely. And you can learn. And I don't want to downplay anybody's industry by any means of saying anybody can just walk in and learn the technical stuff, because that's not the case either. You need to have, background and know how to, either you already have some technical experience or know how to do that. And I think if you have a degree in science, or if you've been through some sort of science training, that's kind of the mindset. If you already have that, then you can learn the technical stuff, because that's how it is. That's your key to that part of it. But and I had that, which was great, but the actual being able to get everybody rowing in the right direction, in the same direction as you said, that does take a lot of work and a lot of finesse and some sensitivity, and you got to kind of be able to finagle some things and people there. So that's that's really important and pretty difficult to do sometimes.
So if you're a life science leader or product manager and you have an interesting story you'd like to share, reach out to me on LinkedIn and we'll connect. If you're interested in learning some other lessons in marketing for life sciences or in avoiding some of the big mistakes, I cover a lot of that in my LinkedIn newsletter. So I'll drop the links to those in the description below. That's it. That's the end.